Fine afternoon to everybody. Welcome to day 3 of, is it day 3? Day 3 of Ignite. I stayed up till 3 a.m. this morning, so I was trying to get my bearings here. How's the conference so far? Great. Only these guys enjoy it. You like the conference? I like it. I think even if it's the first time we put all this wonderful technologies together in a single event, I think it's great. It's brilliant. Being able to interact with other folks within the other technology stack, I think it's a good thing. I learned a lot about Sway this week. I'm still trying to figure out how to use it in the enterprise, but it's all good. But I'm very excited this afternoon, and thank you again for joining me, as we're going to talk about and look at this whole idea of how you embrace what we call the bring your own device revolution. You know, I've been privileged to be working in this field maybe the last 18, 19 years now. And I work across different kinds of customers around the world. And the reality is, regardless if you're commercial, government, education, healthcare, it's just a matter of when, right? And then the challenge is, as IT, how do I get my head around this, Dux? You know, I work a lot with decision makers and IT teams. Dux, there's so much guidance out there. You know, you got to put policies, there's MDM, but I don't know where to start. Can you give me a recipe? Can you give me some kind of guidance and where to go and how to think about this within my organization? And that's exactly what we're going to look at today. So the way we're going to talk through this is thinking about where we are today as an organization, our investments in Microsoft technologies or other technologies, and then with this balance of addressing business needs, yet potentially being able to support this world of BYOD. Is that the session you want to learn about or hear about? Just want to make sure. All right. So my name is Dux Raymond Tsai. For those I haven't met, again, thank you. As you may imagine, had a hard time growing with that name, Dux. Got my ducks in a row now, so I get that out of the way. But I serve as the CTO of AvePoint Public Sector, and I've been working with this stack of technologies for a while. And in the last, I would say, 5 years, my core focus as I work with customers is really help understand with all their investments in technology, in their investments with Microsoft or other technologies, but also the reality of how business is moving, how could they be able to get the biggest bang for their buck. So we're going to cover that. We're going to talk a lot about that. But to get the conversation going, let's see what this world of BYOD looks like.
Today, people are more connected than ever before, through social networks, through the cloud, through mobile devices. The world has become a giant network. And every second, people are sharing, learning, and making decisions on the go. They're all part of one hyper-connected world. These are your customers. They expect faster responses, personalized service, better experiences. As a business, you have to always be listening to your customers. Anticipate trends. Take action. And adapt quickly, no matter what comes your way, so you can always stay one step ahead. You need the latest information at your fingertips to make fully informed decisions. And as a business, you can give your customers exactly what they want, when they want it. So they walk away with experiences as unique as they are. What if you were connected to everything important? What if you and every person in your company could work together like a network? Suddenly, you're plugged into everything that matters to your business. You're social and collaborating in new ways, exchanging ideas with people across the globe. You're always listening to your employees, customers, and partners. You spot new opportunities to adapt quickly and make change happen. You share documents and information in real time and make decisions faster than ever. When you're working together as one connected network, you can grow your business. You understand your customers, you build better products, and you deliver the best experiences. This is the power of a network. Now's the time to start working like one.
Isn't that brilliant? Isn't that how you're working today? No? It's kind of cool, right? Ducks, you make me so inspired, and then when the video's over, wah, wah, wah. You know what the number one collaboration today is in 2015, where everybody's getting their Apple Watches? You want to guess? Email. A 1973 frickin' technology. What's wrong with that, Docs? It works. Oh, yeah, it does. But did you know when email first came out, it wasn't intended for what we are using it for today? When email first came out, it was kind of like Twitter. There's like 255 character limit. And then they started growing it and growing it and growing. Email has its place, and it's still very critical, but there's a lot of other wonderful technologies that we can take advantage of. So what are we going to look at in this session? What we're going to do is, once we're done, I'm going to provide some practical guidance on how you can effectively think about your BYOD strategy, how you can effectively manage your multi-device and multi-generational workforce. And what we'll also look at is this idea of BYOD. Some of you may have heard about it. Some of you may not be clear what it means. Docs, I heard BYOD. I heard consumerization of IT. What does that mean? Can you help me define this so I can get my head around what I want to do with it? And then the other aspect is, in this day and age of mobile and cloud, and I'm sure you kept hearing that throughout the last 3 days, I'm actually very, very impressed with Microsoft. Who works for Microsoft? Very good. You know why I'm impressed? Because they've gone all out with this message of cloud. The last 2 days, they made the clouds go out in this conference area. And yeah, but we're going to see how it delivers business value for your organization. And then last but not the least, I'll provide 5 steps on how you can lead this BYOD revolution as you go back to your organization. So let's get the conversation started here, friends. You remember this company? Little history lesson. So this company called Blockbuster, they peaked in 1999. A lot of you know that they're these stores. For those that are not from North America, what they do is they rent out videos at that time. And at the peak, 1999, they went IPO, and I think they raised some crazy amount of money, $60 million or $6 billion, but a lot of money. But around this time, there's a guy named Reed Hastings. He kept getting late fees because he watches movies late, and he got tired of paying late fees. So he decided, I'm going to start a company called Netflix around the same time. Yeah? So Blockbuster kept growing, and as they grew in 2004 or 2004, at their peak, they had 9,000 stores. And at this time, the CFO or some C-level person decided, you know what? Let's stop our investment on video streaming because they're already doing that and reallocate that money to open more stores. This whole internet streaming thing, not going to happen. But around the same time, YouTube started, Hulu, and the internet connectivity was just flourishing. And you know what happened? In 2010, they filed for bankruptcy. And in 2013, so when they filed for bankruptcy, Dish Network bought them. In 2013, they officially terminated that brand, that company, no more. So, Ducks, what are you talking about this? I mean, I can tell you a lot of stories about tech companies dying, AOL, Netscape. AOL is still here, but it's not as big. This is just techno stuff, right? I mean, what does that have to do with BYOD and cloud and all these new changes? And that's the key point I want to make. Changes happen, we like it or not. I mean, way back when, forget technology, right? In the early 1900s, you know what the Facebook of the 1900s are in North America? It's called Bethlehem Steel. Anybody remember that company? Yeah, a lot of you weren't born yet. But Bethlehem Steel was kind of like the Facebook. They were untouchable. They built the infrastructure of the United States. But we don't hear about them today. Because as change happened, they're like, no worries. We're good. We're big bad IT. We're going to be on-prem for life. I even had that tattooed. Cloud, not going to happen. Mobile, not going to happen. And regardless, we like it or not, it will happen. There's a big shift and a big change that's going on. You see, before, right? Think about in the 40s or 60s or even in the 80s. When we had an idea, a product to sell or something to produce, the feedback mechanism wasn't as fast as we have it today because technology is limited. So what did we do? In the Industrial Revolution, we put up processes and hierarchies and silos to just make it more efficient, and which is great. Nothing wrong with that. Until we get some feedback, imagine back in the 40s when you had to sell something, it hits the shelves in the stores, but we don't hear anything about it, let's just keep doing it, right? And you keep doing it until you hear something, then the next release to improve maybe takes 3 years. But that, friends, doesn't really work today anymore. Today, because of mobile, because of social, because of cloud, companies rise and fall. You know, before I bought this Apple Watch, I had to read tons of reviews to make my decision. Y'all with me? Before you try out this new restaurant in Chicago, a lot of you are out-of-towners, what do? You go to Yelp. You go to Amazon and buy something and you don't like it, what do? You post a negative review. Instant feedback. Technology has caught on how we communicate and engage. Yet let's think about our world. While technology is here, the capability is here, the way we function as IT organization, the enterprise, is still back in the industrial age. Really? IT, I need a project site. I bought you beer last night, so I need to send in this ticket request on ServiceNow. Submit. This file is locked up. I need to collaborate with a vendor, and it's just so hard working with you, IT. You know what? I'm going to box it, or Dropbox it, or OneDrive it, or Snapchat it. I'm still thinking of a use case for Tinder in the enterprise. That's the major disconnect. Well, docs, we get feedback. You know, internally we use social and Yammer. We let people do hashtags, give IT feedback. But what do you do with that feedback? The lifespan of any response or feedback is exponentially useless as time goes by. So what's happening here? Friends, we are in this major transformation and juncture. And it's a great time. Where it used to be things take so long because of how technology has evolved, we can innovate quickly. Where we used to have limited amount of data, we keep it in-house. Today we have access to tons of data. I know some of you attended my session earlier, but for those that haven't, one of the things I'm keen on and excited about is there's data everywhere, and it's actually a problem, right? You know, it used to be we would say content is king, or data is king. Today, context is. You got to get relevant insights around that data. So go ahead and tweet that. Context is king, not content. The major shift within the enterprise also evolves this concept of where we work. As Gurdeep in the keynote from Microsoft said, this word workplace is a misnomer. It's not about a place, a time. Today we work anywhere, anything, anyhow, with any device we want. And that's being mobile. The days of us IT being reactive should be limited. The exciting time with new technologies, mobile and cloud, allows us to be more responsive. Because with these new capabilities, especially if it's not our core business, we don't have to deal with Service Pack Tuesdays anymore. We can respond to the needs of the business strategically and be more proactive. Major change is happening, friends. And this change, I say, shift happens. The BYOD revolution is here. And 4 telltale signs of we see clearly in the enterprise. First, we see what's called the consumerization of IT, where no matter how much we try to prevent it, not only devices abound, but the idea of the cloud abounds too. And I'm not just talking about Azure cloud, big cloud. I mean, look at your business. They Dropbox, they Box, they use OneDrive. And really, when you think about this, I remember when iPad first came out, I was working for an organization. Who's the first person who wants their iPad connected to the network? CEO, right? We have to support that. The second sign that this revolution is here is this massive, massive speed of business. Companies rise and fall. Mergers, acquisitions. Salesforce yesterday, supposed to be Google. Today says Microsoft. I don't really know. That's just my opinion, disclaimer. I didn't hear anything. So, things are moving so fast. The question, you as IT, how do you respond to that? Imagine you suddenly buy a bunch of companies, and now, okay, how do I onboard people here? The third sign is we're asked to do more with less. In fact, I want to have a play of words with this. I say we got to do new with less. And the promise of the cloud allows us to do that. I'll show you some examples in a second. And lastly, and this is huge, how we communicate, friends, has drastically changed. And if you don't believe me, first look at your personal lives. Who, in all honesty, still use email to talk to your friends and family? Bless your heart. I still use email docs, but that's how I get my bills, my Amazon tracking, right? All the spam. The way I talk to my friends and family is through what? Social network, right? Facebook, LinkedIn. We want to belong to some group. And again, technology allows for that. In fact, tell me, when the new baby came out, where did you hear about it? The 6 o'clock news? This is Brian Williams. No, he's still not there, right? For those not from America, ask your American friends. Where'd you hear about the new baby? On your social network. The news covered it, but it was already a couple hours late. And maybe somebody, look at this cute Pinterest collection of baby clothes. Well, that's great, Docs. It's cool. It feels good. But that's personal lives. It's just personal interest. I still don't get what the value this brings to the enterprise. It's all fun. It's all, celebrity stuff. But there's really no value. Well, let me give you some value here if you want to talk about value. As I mentioned to some of you earlier in the previous session, I come from the deep south. And that's why I say you all a lot. I come from Manila, Philippines. The land of Manny. And a lot of you know, in 2 years ago, major typhoon hit the Philippines. Typhoon Haiyan, a lot of lives were perished. But one of the things, talking about social, that saved a lot of people was because of social. One of the things that they prepared for is they're going to have emergency responders on the ground. So when the typhoon or the hurricane, whatever you want to call it, passes, this team on the ground will help people. Well, guess what? The entire team got swept away in the ocean. So there's a lot of people after the storm passed were stuck in roofs and they just can't go anywhere. But fortunately, a lot of data was up on phones. Voice was down. They started tweeting and Facebooking, I need help. And guess what? On Twitter, it captures your GPS location. Facebook, it captures your location. You have an option, like, how you can check in? That's how the first wave of people were saved. Let me take that story further. The first group that came to do a full-on support was the U.S. Pacific Command out of Hawaii. Aircraft carrier came. And in that aircraft carrier, they use SharePoint a lot, Microsoft collaboration technology. And what they do for any emergency like this, they deploy a site for people to collaborate. The workers, the soldiers, they have mobile devices, get to the site, put names of who's been rescued, what equipment are needed, who's sick, all that good stuff. Imagine doing that in email. It could be done, but time is of essence. Technology is now here to allow us to communicate and engage more faster than ever. These are interesting stats, right? It's not because BYOD and social and cloud is popular because they're cool, but it's because we as human beings, we have an intrinsic drive to engage and connect. Think about yourself. I want to be part of a club. I'm in a LinkedIn group. I'm part of my family. I'm part of this bowling league. It's just us. But technology can allow us to do that better. Mobile technologies remove the barriers to connectivity, geography, and time. These are just some stats I pulled recently, right? This is the big part. Consumers use an average of 4 mobile devices every day. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? I look at my Apple Watch. Rub it in. That's why I'm walking and counting my steps. You pick up your phone, look at your feed, respond to your email, and then what? You may not finish your email, you shower, you change, you pick up your Surface, and you start working on that email, and you have to come to the conference, you take an Uber, you continue working on that email. That's called work shifting. That's the reality. And we in the enterprise, boy, wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to leverage that? And if you tell me, well, Dux, you don't understand. I work in the government. Change is hard. I don't buy that anymore. I work in Washington, D.C. I suddenly changed my thinking 3 years ago. I was in one major agency. We were deploying SharePoint, and we're talking about easier way to collaborate. This gentleman says, Sonny, I don't want that. I'm just using email. I'm too old for that. Let the kids use that. And then as 5 o'clock came, we walked out the door. First thing he did, took out his iPhone, looked at his Facebook stream, went to the store, clicked on a link on Facebook. He got invited to play Candy Crush, downloaded Candy Crush, and he was walking while playing Candy Crush, WWPCC. And it just dawned on me, that's a lame excuse. It's too much to learn, I can't change, and here you are playing Candy Crush on the latest gadget. So why is there that disconnect, right? Because we don't provide the right value proposition for people to leverage these wonderful technologies. But we can change that, right? We can change that. So, looking at that, some trends, and this is right for the taking for all of us. The workforce is becoming increasingly mobile, and when we talk about mobile, we're not talking about a phone. Remember, a phone is not mobile. What? Yeah, try putting it on the table, walk away, see if it follows. That's what Gurdeep said in the keynote. I'm just reminding. But we're increasingly having this notion of work anywhere, anytime with anything. 40% of global workforce would be able to do this due to availability of connectivity and devices becoming cheaper and cheaper. And mobile access, based on this trend, is now more and more becoming essential. And this right here is cool. 65% email first opened on mobile devices. And you would agree. Right? But what's in it for me, right, Dux? I mean, mobile, cloud, it's all good. We have the promise to provide our organization of the ability to, first of all, work from anywhere with anything across geolocation without worrying about scaling. I know some of you may worry about security and compliance. We'll talk about that. But that's a promise. And me as Dux, the worker bee, this is brilliant. Now, how do we do all of this, right? How are we able, as IT, to put together some kind of framework so that not only IT can embrace this revolution, but we can share the goodness and help our organization maximize and take advantage of this. So I'm going to talk to you 5 practical steps. I'll show examples. I'll tell stories. These are some of the things that I've been doing along with some of our customers to demonstrate the value, but also to start thinking about how to put a framework together on embracing BYOD. So first, the first step to embrace BYOD is to secure stakeholder buy-in. I know some of you may think, well, Dux, that's not needed. It's actually the executives who told me to do BYOD. But it's still our responsibility to work with them and educate them and explain what that means. Because the word BYOD is quite broad, and what are we trying to do with BYOD? According to Gartner, by 2016, 20% of companies implementing BYOD will fail to find the balance between security and productivity. This research is actually scary, right? Well, 20% may not seem like a lot. That's very important for you to think about. Because on one hand, right, what I see is there's this trend. Docs, we're kind of the Silicon Valley, Bay Area, hip, cool company. We're all mobile. We're all cloud. No standard. Que sera, sera. That's a problem. And then the other end of the spectrum, the only way we're going to do mobile or BYOD is through a device called BlackBerry. Who's using a BlackBerry? I think you can trade that in the expo hall. And for me, I'm not saying it's wrong or right. You want to get to the middle, right? On one hand, how do you empower and ensure things like security, compliance are still addressed and it's delivering business needs? So how do we do this, right? How do we do this? When you engage with stakeholders, so let's say your boss, your executive, say, hey, let's do this BYOD thing. We've invested in the cloud. Let's take advantage of mobile, all this goodness. There's all new iOS devices. Keep in mind that at the end of the day, business matters. BYOD doesn't really matter. That's just the flavor of the day, right? You got to step back and think, okay, boss, let's talk about this. What are we doing in the organization that this thing called BYOD can help and support? There's 3 core areas you have to consider. I mean, there's a lot of areas, but start with this 3, right? Start with this 3. Number 1, what are some of our strategic initiatives? What are we doing as a company this quarter, in the next 6 months, next year? Are we in expansion mode, cost savings mode? What are we doing, right? Well, Docs, I'm not at that level, though. I mean, we're such a huge conglomerate. Does that still apply to, like, my department, my VP? Absolutely. Look at what's in the immediate horizon and think about how this thing called BYOD can support. Next, there's this promise of productivity and being more efficient and being able to work whenever, wherever, however, right? But that's not enough. I mean, who uses SharePoint here? Okay, a lot of people. SharePoint is almost 14 years old. And to this day, it's pitched as, yeah, better collaboration, productivity, knowledge management, extranet. But a big percentage of global deployment of SharePoint is nothing but a big file dump. It's where files go to die. Is that productivity? No. It's funny, in my previous session, I was asking, are people migrating to Office 365? They go, yeah, we're on migration. I cracked up because it reminds me, every migration project I start looking into with customers it reminds me of this TV show called Hoarders. We got to keep that. We got to move everything. Really? Is that productivity? And I'll show you use cases on how you can demonstrate this. The third aspect, and which is becoming more and more relevant, is this idea of attracting talent. The baby boomer generation is moving on in the next couple of years. They're going to retire. They're going to enjoy, their beach house. But organizations have to move on. We can't keep antiquated systems and expect the next generation leaders and the next generation workers would embrace that and take advantage of it. Because the difference is, for example, my son and my daughter. My son, Johan, he's 9. My daughter, Danica, she's 4. And I tell you, they don't know how to type. Their first interaction with technology is swiping and talking to Siri or Cortana. And it's natural. We look at technology as a tool. Technology for them is part of their lifestyle. Right? So how do we support that? And we want the best of the best. We want the best of the best and the brightest help the company. They come in, what do you have? Office 2007. So okay, Docs, I get it. When I deal with leadership, I got to demonstrate business matters. It's not about BYOD. Give me an example, right? So I'm going to tell you this story. I'm going to show a video. There's a company here in North America. It's called Red Robin. They serve burgers. And a few years ago, so they're a Microsoft customer, the CEO said, you know what, we're such in the competitive space of burger chains, we got to figure out how to reduce costs and save money and contribute to the bottom line. So he was, in a meeting with the CFO, CIO. They're like, what do we do? Do we hire a consultant to do a survey how we save money? Or do we run a survey for the entire company? This seems like a big project to do. The IT director is like, no, you don't have to do all that. The IT director is like, we have this thing called Yammer. And in the company, we have 25,000 employees. So we're talking about people in corporate and also the frontline staff. And they have Yammer apps on their mobile devices. That's how they communicate to them. They don't even have email. What we could do is we can crowdsource this. We can ask everybody, look, give us ideas on how we save money, because you guys are in the front lines and you guys would know better. And then the CFO made a good point. He said, that's all good, but what would motivate people to do it? Some people may not care. Yeah, whatever. They don't listen to us anyway. The CFO had a brilliant idea. The CFO said, let's make it a contest. I'm going to announce that, starting today, put ideas. After 2 weeks or so, we're going to narrow it down to about 10 ideas. And then we're going to make the whole company vote just by clicking on like. Very simple. And the more likes we had after a week, whoever has the number one, I'll write a $1,000 check out of my pocket and give that money. It's fun. It's low-key, leveraging technology that they already have. And what happened? Let's check it out.
In the Great Recession, many best-in-class competitors made decisions around efficiency and effectiveness that helped them preserve their margins. Well, Red Robin hadn't done any of that. And from my experience, I realized that there were a lot of efficiencies to be had if we only unleash the power of our team members to help us.
Our CFO offered to write a $1,000 check out of his own pocket for the best cost savings idea that we could come up with, but he had two rules around those cost savings. The first is it couldn't negatively impact a guest or a team member. And second is it had to be sustainable. It couldn't be a one-hit wonder.
Well, historically, if you wanted to get ideas from the front line, you went out and you talked to people, and I did that. But with Yammer, you're able to put a challenge out to 25,000 people at the same time.
And what he did is he got on stage and he launched this at our annual leadership conference, but then engaged this contest on Yammer.
Surveys are one-way communication, whereas when you do this kind of challenge in a forum like Yammer, it becomes multi-directional and people can contribute to that idea.
Having that ability has really made us more of an innovative company, which is really going to move us forward in the industry.
Having them talk about it on a social network really engaged the competition. We ended up settling on a pretty simple winner, which was a reusable kids cup.
So it's better for the environment, it's obviously cost savings for the company, and it's a win-win all the way around.
Yammer was a terrific enhancement to that because it gave people the ability, without getting second-guessed or judged, to put ideas on the table about where we could save money without hurting the guest, without hurting the team member, and without compromising our quality.
Is that pretty cool? Remember what I said about do new with less? They already had it. It was their internal social network communication platform, but now they were able to use it as a channel to identify cost savings. And do you think they only implemented that top idea to save money? I think they implemented the top 20 or so. In only a few months, they saw the ROI. A couple $100,000 was saved. So when you engage with stakeholders, look at strategic, immediate use cases that you can try it on. Certainly, I agree, you have to create this big roadmap and plan and all that. We'll talk about it. But with stakeholders, you have to nail down why are we doing this. Once you demonstrate and talk about the value, the next step is work with the business. Identify what business value it provides. I understand there's the initial step into mobile and cloud and BYOD where, you can access your email, you can get your Word documents, but that's a low sell. Don't even pitch that. That's a given. That's understood. How else can we leverage these technologies and investments so we can get our job done better, faster, sooner? And you want to do this because any technology rollout, be it a new upgrade or mobile, change is hard. This is a great research. They said, every time there's a new technology that's introduced or rolled out, 53% decline in productivity. Goes back to the point, it has to be worth it, right? So how do we make it worth it? At the business side of the house, make sure your strategy around BYOD should facilitate purposeful collaboration. Not just, again, okay, you can hook up your iPhone or Android and whatnot, check your email. I mean, that's cool. But put together a very specific use case and scenario. And just go for low-hanging fruits and common pain points. So it's low risk and quick wins. Okay, give me an example, Dux. Give me an example. Okay, so here's an example. I had the privilege of writing the book called SharePoint for Project Management a few years ago. Anybody saw that book or read that book? Thank you. Each copy is 80 cents to my son's college fund, so thank you. But one of the things I realize is at the end of the day, people don't care about technology, really. It's an enabler. I want to get my job done faster, better, sooner. And it's exciting because we could do that today with all these wonderful technologies. So going back to project management, the number one, again, tool of project managers today is still email. But what if, just what if, with their existing mobile technologies, and let's say Office 365 or any Microsoft investment, what if we can elevate that and make it useful enough so people, when they're collaborating in projects, can be much more seamless and much more efficient? So let's see how that looks like. I pre-recorded some video, so I'm going to demo something here using mobile and cloud to facilitate better project collaboration.
Meet my colleague Alex. He and I are working on putting together a presentation for our boss. Thanks to SharePoint 2013, we're able to easily centralize and manage all related artifacts and communications for this project. On a typical day, Alex would start working from home using his Mac. He would check his email from a browser and start work from there. Looks like Alex is reviewing the task for the project, and he has some questions for me about the project. Just by using the browser, he's able to instant message me using technologies like Link.
One of the key benefits of SharePoint 2013
is a deep integration with existing tools that we already use, like Microsoft Office, smartphones, and even web-based technologies. So even if I am out and about, I'm still not at the office yet, I can easily respond to Alex on my phone and update my task.
The beauty with SharePoint 2013 is that I can continue working with Alex once I get to the office.
You just assign me a task on the project site, and look at what happens. It automatically shows up on my task list in Microsoft Outlook. Isn't that cool or what? Additionally, within Outlook, I can email the entire team directly using this neat feature called Site Mailbox. The Site Mailbox is available not only in Outlook, but it's the same Site Mailbox that the team can see and interact with directly on the project site. The Site Mailbox also provides visibility to all the documents I have in the project site.
So what do you think? Are you excited? I am. This is the new way to work together with SharePoint 2013. So what do you guys think? Is that hard? It's natural, right? I mean, I've worked with a lot of organizations working in this field of project management where, you know what, Dux? Project Server is too much. Microsoft Project is too much. Primavera is too much, right? I want to go back to my good old email. Well, what if you just lower the barrier to entry and start with what they're familiar with, from mobile to non-Microsoft devices? And that's natural, and those are the things that you could do today. Now, extending this conversation, let's do one more thing here. So this is an example of a similar project site, and as you can see, the idea of having a one-stop shop, everything here, my task, my document, my conversation feed using a Yammer group is all here. Now, I've been preparing for this for months and months, and the day has come, and my team back at the office is rooting for me. Oh, I wonder how Dux is doing with the presentation. It would be great to hear from him. So they could, right? So in the spirit of being able to interact with my team, I have the Yammer app on my phone, And what I'm going to do a group selfie with you all. With my selfie stick. And because I need to engage with my team, right? So like this. Now, I got to bring up my Apple Watch and take the picture with my Apple Watch. There you go. So, let's do this. Is it, you know what? Let me just, okay. Everybody smile. I'm going to tag you on Facebook later. Come on. There you go. All right. Now, it'll take a second. I'll show it to you. But what's the deal now? Right. Wow. Every project manager gets a selfie stick? Yeah, it's a great benefit working at AppPoint, you know? That's cool. I want to be cool. So the idea is this mode of working and interacting is so natural, right? I'll show it to you in a second. I think it's uploading. But what I did here, friends, is, again, thinking through all this and ensuring that, you know, we're not even buying a new technology. It's already technology that we have. Let me do it. I didn't hit post, so there you go. Let me hit post. Okay, good. It's posting, and I'll bring it up. So that's the second step. Map it to a relevant business value and make sure it's quick wins and it's something that people are familiar with and they can take advantage of it right away with existing tools that they have. Next, what we could do is put together a relevant plan, okay? So we talk to decision makers, stakeholders. We talk to the business, what are their pain points and how mobile and cloud and BYOD technology can support them. But how do we plan for it, Ducks? How do we make sure that, you know, this thing that we do can meet our needs? So there's 4 key areas you have to think of. The first consideration with all your existing investments is you got to think about connectivity. And this is important. While it may not be a big issue in North America where we have great bandwidth, for larger organizations, you know, bandwidth may be scarce in some parts of the world, or maybe you're in the middle of the water for some reasons, like oil rigs and whatnot, or even in the military, your aircraft carriers. And what that means is, well, I got to make sure I need to provide some kind of offline capability. Right? So what are some of the connectivity requirements? Second is, what about capacity? And this is a very, very good consideration, because think about this, right? Let me give you an example. Anybody watch the last Super Bowl? Okay. So what I want to talk about in that Super Bowl is their online streaming made records after records. And the good news is they used Azure Media Streaming. And it was flawless. It was perfect. But it made all kinds of records in terms of simultaneous views, simultaneous connections. Now, if you were to do all that on premises, do you think you can scale as well? I bet a lot of people want their money back from that game. So the question to you, friends, is, do you have those kinds of needs where there may be surges of scalability requirements that you need? Right? And if so, and you want to make sure you provide the greatest service to your business, what kind of infrastructure should you have? There's no way NFL could have done it if they didn't do a cloud-based model where it could scale. Even if you say, well, Ducks, we have all the money in the world to set up that infrastructure. Okay, go for it. And then what happens after the Super Bowl? Not only do you have all these infrastructures sitting, your operational expenses would still be high because you still need to hire all these people to take care of this massive infrastructure you built. The third part of consideration when you're doing planning is, what about reliability? So that kind of ties to capacity. How do you ensure a great experience for your end users, for your business? And that's what I love about investing in the cloud, because I'm not saying it's perfect, but the likelihood of it going down or being slow or the experience not being the greatest may be much, much less than if you offer it in-house. Right? User experience side, related to reliability, as devices change, as trends change, One of the big trends these days are things like, the concept of group and visual communication. There's no way you can put together an on-premise like Delve or Groups environment to be able to communicate visually to your end users. So what does that look like in your organization? And then another part of your putting or relevant plan is then think about, okay, Dux, I thought about those 4 key areas. I thought about, some of the key planning considerations. But let's start deploying these solutions, right? What are my options? Now, obviously, so let's make a good example here. So let's say Office 365. Out of the box, through mobile devices, you can go to the browser natively and fire up Internet Explorer on your Windows phone or Safari on your iPhone, and you could go to your Office 365 site, and it's okay, you can get to it. But the experience, it's not as easy, it's not as seamless. So what do we do, right? One of the key considerations you have to think about, and I find that for mobile, this applies more than traditional on-premises solution, is you got to think about third-party apps, add-ins, and services to support your mobile or BYOD implementation. There's a lot of great things out there. Microsoft is producing a lot of apps, for example, iOS apps, Android, Windows Phone apps, and then there's a lot of great organizations as well in the Microsoft ecosystem providing that. Do your due diligence, and for me, if it's not your core business, again, don't think about doing a custom development effort because technology changes so much that it's not going to be worthwhile for you. Now, the last part is if it's because due to, number one, the solutions are not out there, number two, that you're bounded by some legal or security compliance, then do it yourself. But the caution I have is you got to make sure you get the right skill set in place. The other part of planning is how do you balance the business needs and the technical needs? How do I think about putting together a policy? Whenever I think about policies, right? So it's kind of in line with things like information governance or IT governance. Every organization have it. I'm sure all of you have it. And if you're going to go BYOD, you're going to have it. But the issue I find is nobody really knows what it is. Do you agree? For example, who lives here in the United States? A bunch of people? Okay. Keep your hands up. And I assume most of you are U.S. citizens, Americans. How many of the hands up has read the Constitution page to page? Keep it up. Let's give them a big round of applause. Now, I'm ashamed to admit I haven't. And why not? It's not. I know it kind of protects me as an American. It's a good thing. But it's not relevant. Y'all with me? I mean, I do it if I had to do it. However, there are certain policies and rules that I'm well aware of. Things like when I drive past stoplights, I shouldn't, where I should park. Things like I know if I'm home in Washington, D.C. during the week, Mondays to Fridays, I got to be at the house by 10 p.m. or else upper management would have an issue with that, my wife. Because there's immediate rewards or consequences. So what are you saying, Dux? When you put together policies, I'm not saying putting together a blanket strategic policy is wrong. You should. We should have a constitution. But take it to the next level and put together specific policies or governance or guidance for use cases or users. So as an example, I'm going to show you a sample policy. I cleaned it up. I put this together a while back. This is, keep in mind, what you do with this is you take this, include it in your overall organizational governance or IT governance plan. But it's straightforward and simple, right? So, okay, so you, let's say, as a part of your onboarding process, an employee, you could do all these things. Tablets, including iPad, Android, are allowed, blah, blah, blah. It's very straightforward and simple. Now, there's a bigger thing, like I said, and what you have to do is, once you agree with this with the business, if you can, as you onboard a new resource to your organization, make it part of their IT onboarding. Is this something you would like as a sample or a copy you want to download? Okay. $100 a download. Now, what I don't want you to do is you take this, just change the name Contoso to your company, and then make it official. Imagine what would have happened if this country, our forefathers, just went to constitution.com, downloaded it, and approved it. Make it your own. So again, balance between the needs of the business and technology. Now, the other part, right? I want to show a quick video here. Let's talk about this. Docs, I get it, right? But here's the deal. Business needs. Our business today, when they work, for example, with external partners or customers or vendors, they share stuff. Well, we have all this goodness with SharePoint, Office 365, cloud, and all that. The problem is we have an issue where we just don't have any other way for external entities to come to this environment. So our business ends up what? Sending attachments, Dropbox, Box, and OneDrive, right? How do we balance that? The good news is, again, the way Microsoft has built the ecosystem is there's so much options out there. And it's just up to you to understand and review what's possible. So I'm going to show you a quick video of a sample capability. Where did I put that video? Here. Okay. So the idea here, in fact, let me just let it play and let me let this person speak. Do you have audio up, sir?
Inside or outside of your organization at the same time. Let's start inside of SharePoint, and let's pretend I'm a CEO who needs to securely share information about an upcoming board meeting with his board members. To do so, I would click Secure Share in the ribbon. When I do, a prompt will open up for me to select which users I want to send it to, the permission level I want to send it to them at, and also the availability for me to set an expiration time for their access to the content I'm about to share. Once I hit OK, an email will be sent to those external users, which looks like this. They then have the ability to click the link that's inside of the email, which I'm going to do so now. The portal will appear as a place where people can download, edit, or view documents or documents inside of folders or libraries that you've shared with them. For example, you see the board meeting details folder that we just shared. When I go inside this, I'll have the ability to edit the content in this folder with Office Web Apps.
So real quick, right? What does this allow? In essence, there's solutions out there, and Microsoft is coming up with more and more, that would enable the experience of people sharing content externally, yet we as IT to be able to support it and maintain it and have oversight over it. The next step, which is very, very important, is the ability to ensure security and compliance. Right? So we talked about number 1, secure stakeholder buy-in. What are we doing with BYOD? Number 2, map it to a specific business value, use cases. Number 3, put the plan together. Number 4, part of that plan, make sure security and compliance is part of it. And I know there's a lot of concerns out there around security and compliance. So, for example, there was a survey done by AIIM, I think last year, around how confident are organizations and decision makers in compliance. Only 18% are confident. 51% have big doubts, right? And rightfully so, because no matter how much we have all these wonderful technologies, it's still not there yet. There's a lot of risks, a lot of issues. And other metrics, right? So what are your concerns on mobile sharing? 70% are concerned, and 21% are extremely concerned. And again, friends, keep in mind, when we talk about mobile sharing, we're not talking about using phones to share. It's this idea of being able to easily share content. And it's getting worse. The other day, I had a customer call me, Docs, you can't believe what happened. Somebody got an email attachment, they saved it to their phone, and they WhatsApp it to somebody else. And this wasn't a joke. And that document was confidential. Right? Now, the person who sent it from the organization was innocent, they didn't know. They just sent it to what they thought was a customer, but what the customer did, WhatsApp sent it. There's all these different channels now, right? It's a problem. Now, what do we do? What do we do? Part of your policy, right, has to address things like that, and I'll talk more about it. But then you also think about, what does it cost? What does it cost every time we have a breach? And this is an actual research by the Ponemon report. I think I just tweeted it. I'm wearing HoloLens to tweet it. But there's a full-blown report you can share with your executives, right? What does it cost for every breach? There's a lot of news out there on breaches and security hacks, passwords being stolen, documents being shared. The cost per breach event is that, on the average. Really, Dux? No. I mean, think about it. Opportunity costs. If you found out your bank or your credit card company lost your data, and when they call you, would you like to renew your membership? Thanks, but no thanks. Right? Think about that. Not to scare you, but while BYOD is great, what about these things? So what should we think about, Dux? So in terms of security and compliance, first things first, it kind of ties back to number one, number two. How are your people working? Most of them, are they remote? Are they in-house? Are they contractors? Are they vendors? What kind of devices do they have? Do we want to limit the support of devices? Or do we want to limit the type of cloud-based technologies we want to allow people to use? Where do they work? Some of you may be aware of this, especially if you work in the defense. There's these export control rules. That's why in some parts of the world, Microsoft has to stand up their own Office 365 Azure environment. Right? China has their own version. Australia does. In more and more countries, or Microsoft are investing in different countries for the environment for all those regulations. What about in-house policies, especially in healthcare, in financial sector? Anybody have to deal with Sarbanes-Oxley, HIPAA, yeah? Section 508, yeah? Run DMC? I thought I could slip that by. So how would all that work, right? So what do we do? What do we do, Docs? Sit down with those key people in your organization, compliance officers, your business units, and really understand what those policies says. Now, I'm not scaring you here, but we just want to be realistic. And that's why you want to take baby steps and take simple use cases before you do big things. Anybody was there last night, Red Party? Who went to the Red Party? It was a great time. There was a drone flying. Yeah? But what happens if you left your mobile device last night, where you're all logged in, you have your document and content? How do you deal with that? Good news is there's tons of great technology. So I don't know, some of you may have invested in MDM, what's called mobile device management technologies, where you can wipe the device as long as it's connected or it's open, or even other technologies where you can lock it, or in iPhone you can kind of track your phone, all that stuff. But what if, Dux, what if all those weren't available? Is there a way we can limit where content is being accessed, especially if I'm in the military? Of course. So here's a simple example, right? So let's say what I want to do is put a rule where content can be accessed by what device. So as I log in to my SharePoint site, I put a rule and say I can only access my SharePoint site or Office 365 site if I'm in the office. And if I'm not in the office, I can only access it in this longitude, latitude, within 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock by this specific device. So I log in outside of work. I'm at a Starbucks. That location is approved. It lets me in. Right? Now, that's cool, Doc. So you're saying I can limit not only who access it, but where and what device? Yes. What does it look like in the back end? In the back end, if I want to see who's accessing content where, I can do it. So I can pull up my log and look at Docs. He was here when he accessed this site. Let me see where he was. Bing comes up. He was right here when he edited that content. Is that cool? You're scaring me, Docs. Big brother. So you may have to do that to ensure security and compliance. Yes, ma'am. Yes, just to be upfront, this is a third-party tool. There's a bunch of tools, but it supports on-premises and online. Yeah. The last step, you want to facilitate sustainable adoption, right? A bunch of the folks went to the session, or who went to the session on sustainable adoption this morning. Thank you for coming back. So we talked a lot about, why it's important to think about adoption not just only from a training perspective, but how do you sustain it? So when we think about BYOD adoption, again, there's a typical workload, check email, share files, what have you. But how can we bring value to different people in the organization? Like, is it the CEO in a Starbucks where they have their mobile devices consuming content? Is it a warehouse employee with a tablet where they're entering data? A sales rep in a hotel room, okay? So what do these look like? So in fact, I want to show you a quick demo of a use case. And let me fire this up.
So you can see here, I have the ability to edit in.
Okay, so let me do this, right? So a couple of things. Let me make sure I'm connected. All right. So I'm gonna bring my iPhone up. There you go. So here's the use case. Let me so I'm connected. Let me bring up this example. Okay. So here's a great example of ensuring that we provide value to the right people in the right organization. So I was working with a customer. They have all these Microsoft technologies, SharePoint, CRM, all this good stuff. And they're like, Dux, how can we do new with less? We use all these workloads internally, collaboration, email, all that. And we have a need in our city so that we want our constituents to be able to report easily and they don't have to call. I don't know if you have apps in your city where you report potholes and what have you. Or in some cities, they have to call. So they're like, there's a lot of tools out there, but we already have this investment. Is it possible? I go, yeah, absolutely. So let's do this, right? So what we did, and what I helped him with, there you go. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring up this phone. Okay? So the idea is, let's say we live in this city, in the spirit of, this is full-on BYOD here, and we introduce this capability. All right, citizens of Chicago, the city has an app, and what you could do is if you see anything you want to report, from potholes to broken trees to broken lamps, what have you, just go to our city website, and then there's a link there. You click report, and this will come up. It could be an app, it could be whatever. So coupled with GPS location, it sees I'm here, right? So I'm just going to hit plus and create a request. What kind of request are you going to do? Noise complaint. You can put a description. You can add a picture. Choose existing picture. All right. These guys are noisy. All right. And then next. And then as it's submitting it, what's going on behind the scenes? Right? So this right here, friends, is SharePoint. But now the information is taken, workflow kicks in, feeds it to the right case management system, which is powered by CRM in this organization. Let me turn this off so I'll show this to you. And what happens? Now, with their existing investment, they're able to use this and serve their citizens so that the right report will go to the right agency and they can take care of it. In the spirit of transparency, what they've also done in their public website is they made all the requests visible. So this is showing Atlanta, Georgia here, friends. So let me pick on this request, pothole service request. So let me click on it through SharePoint and other technologies. It's pulling that request up, showing the status. And by the way, whoever reported on it will get notified if it's taken care of. Y'all with me? And you could do that today. And when we talk about sustainable adoption, to drive BYOD, we should be able to showcase some of these capabilities. Provide scalable support. We want to ensure that as people adopt this and use this, there's a way they can help themselves. There's a community-based peer-to-peer learning model where if you want to learn more about this model, success.office.com has a lot of great templates and resources and and tools for you to put this thing together. And then IT should take care of the heavy lifting. You want to get away from that model where if you need help, call IT. It's too much for IT. So provide a way that users can help themselves, support each other, and then for bigger things, IT would address it. Constantly gather feedback. That's how you would know. The business would know their business better than we do. And you can get ideas a lot from the business. In fact, this idea of reporting on Citizen was the idea of the mayor's team. He's like, we spent all this money in the cloud and all that. Can we use it for that? Because we don't want to buy another thing. Yeah, why not? And very important, as IT, we should be able to go back to the business and say, look, right? We said through BYOD, we're going to help you improve project or team collaboration. How was this capability or the BYOD plan help you? Well, it streamlined collaboration. People use their mobile. What was achieved? Increasing global spread of business. How was it measured? 15% improvement in project delivery. Now, it's not enough to have these qualitative metrics and say, we met this. We have to prove it quantitatively as well. These two things go hand in hand, right? If we're saying people are using mobile to collaborate better, does it show in SharePoint? Does it prove it? The other aspect of this report is you can also see trends in engagements and the types of devices and locations where people were at. Now, somebody just tweeted, Dux, I don't believe that that whole thing you did with Yammer worked. I just want to show it to you. You see right there? So it actually worked. So you got to make sure when you measure and demonstrate value, you can provide this. 5 steps to embrace the BYOD revolution. As IT, what does BYOD mean? Work with your executives. Pick a use case you can work with the business on, put together the plan, ensure security and compliance, and make sure you are able to facilitate sustainable adoption. What do you guys think? Helpful? Useful? All right. Now, as I promised, this session is recorded, so you get that off the Microsoft website. But I've shown you some templates, and somebody's asking about, where can I get that policy? I'll make that available to you 2 ways. You can come by, give me your card, or send me a tweet, or stop by our booth. I'll be more than happy to provide you with these resources and any other questions that you may have. So, we've got a few minutes left. Any questions I can address? Yes, ma'am. Please, just go, so we can record it. That would be great.
Okay, so for the bring your own device, what do you say to the people who are trying to overcome app compatibility?
I'm sorry, what compatibility?
Application compatibility. Like, they just don't want to bring their own device to check email and go online to SharePoint or whatever.
Absolutely.
They want to do everything. And as someone in IT,
Very good.
I'm thinking of every single app in our enterprise that they want to use, from their iPad, their Android phone, their whatever.
So here's a quick answer. We actually covered that in detail in the previous session, because everybody wants everything for nothing yesterday, right?
Right, yes.
So we covered that greatly in the last session. I encourage you, I can talk to you offline, but I encourage you to watch that video on sustainable adoption. So we went through how you put that together.
Okay.
Yeah?
Thanks.
Well, gang, thank you for being here, and I hope this was worthwhile. Enjoy the rest of the conference, yeah?